in Ukraine, and then in English, his impassioned plea. It was all very, very powerful, and his leadership, he's a hero. It just was remarkable to see him. And I was so pleased that so many members, House and Senate, Democrats and Republicans, filled the House yesterday and filled the air with their applause, first to welcome him and then to appreciate what he had to say. It was quite remarkable, quite historic. It was an honor to be there to see him. But the purpose of the visit was tragic and heartbreaking. Later that morning, I had a meeting with the G7 heads of parliament. It was presided over by Germany, which heads up the G7 at this time. And it was with the G7, the head of the EU, as well as Stepanchuk, who is the Speaker of the Ukraine Parliament. Again, it too, with emotion to hear the stories of what is happening there. We put forth a proclamation, which you all should have received yesterday, talking about humanitarian, economic, military assistance in great detail. But it also says that we have to continue to isolate Russia in the global economy and society, as well as address the disinformation that Russia is putting out. Again, yesterday, 2 days ago, we went to the White House and the President signed the Omnibus Bill, and that was quite remarkable for us because here we've been talking about bills that are $1.7 trillion over 10 years. This bill, the $1.5 trillion omnibus bill, passed in a very strong bipartisan way to meet the needs of the American people and to protect them, had very strong bipartisan support. It was signed by the president. We were very pleased that that same day Shalonda Young was confirmed as the director of OMB with her history in the Congress. That's just a personal aside. In that omnibus bill, we are defending democracy in the Ukraine, $13.6 billion in emergency funding for security and humanitarian needs, making a difference for America's families, lowering the cost for education with bigger Pell Grants, and establishing the president's ARPA-H, something very exciting. It's an initiative to defeat cancer and other diseases, unlocking billions more in federal dollars under the bipartisan infrastructure bill. That bill was very important, but it needed an appropriation to free up billions and billions of dollars that were in it, and now that is done. And historic bipartisan legislation reauthorizing the Violence Against Women Act, establishing a new, again, in addition to that, establishing new cyber provisions against Russia. The bill goes on and on. It's $1.5 trillion. This victory in that bill, this victory for the American people, builds on Democrats' actions to lower costs for families. Congress and the presidents have been hard at work to create jobs. How about this president? 6.6 million new jobs were created last year. Grow the economy, fastest rate of growth in 40 years last year. Lowest unemployment last year saw the biggest one-year drop in unemployment in history, and today unemployment claims were the lowest in 50 years. Supporting small business last year, a record 5.4 million small businesses were created, 1 million more than the year before, and lower prices for Americans through strong action in the Congress. But we need to do so much more. The kitchen table concerns of America's working families are tangible, they are ongoing, and we need to address them. Over the kitchen table, people have to decide, are they going to pay for food, for rent, for education, for credit card bills, whatever their needs are, the same needs that keep them up at night, the decision as to what to pay for. So we must continue to lower costs, increase jobs, increase pay. what else was going to say? But, oh, in that regard, we have to address the Putin price hike, gas hike. It has, since he started amassing troops earlier this year, the price at the pump has gone up 75 cents. We're doing everything we can to minimize the Putin price hike at home. The White House announced the release of 90 million barrels from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. We call on industry to boost production and stop hoarding profits. Oil prices are down. But the price of when the price of oil goes up, the price of gasoline goes up. When the price of oil goes down, the price of gasoline does not necessarily go down. This is not right. It's not fair. And again, we want to say, there are 6,000 permits out there where people could drill, where industry can drill, so they don't need to be upending our initiatives to save the planet from the climate crisis. If they want to drill, they have places to drill. Use it or lose it. Let somebody else drill there. We had passed a bill last week on banning Russian oil. That's still a work in progress because in the meantime, as we were discussing that, the president issued an executive order. So the question is what needs to be done in addition to that. As I mentioned at the start, and as you well know, today is St. Patrick's Day. Last night I had the privilege of sitting with the Taoiseach at a dinner, at the Friends of Ireland dinner, at which I was had the honor of giving him an award, an International Leadership Award, on behalf of the Friends of Ireland and on behalf of our members of Congress. Right before I was supposed to give him the award, the Taoiseach left the table, and then I was told that the ambassador would be accepting the award on his behalf and giving his speech. So we're very, very sad that on St. Patrick's Day, the Taoiseach has this diagnosis, and also the luncheon that we would be having today, we won't be able to have the benefit of the honor of his presence. Just so you know, this is a lunch that was started by Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan when Tip was Speaker and Reagan was President. The first luncheon, this luncheon, didn't have the Taoiseach. It was just the Speaker and the President. That's what it'll be today, the Speaker and the President. We would rather, of course, have the Taoiseach. And subsequently, the Taoiseach, the Prime Minister of Ireland, was invited. The first luncheon, Tip O'Neill invited 16 members, 12 from Massachusetts. And it's grown since then. We'd have, well, perhaps you'll cover what we say in that meeting, but we'll have a wonderful turnout of members. I don't have Irish grandparents, but I do have Irish grandchildren, and I always brag about them, as you can imagine. I just wanted to say that in consultation with the Office of the Attending Physician, I will continue regular testing, following CDC guidelines. Our Friends of Ireland lunch will proceed today without the participation of the Taoiseach, in case those of you in green had any concerns about that. Any questions? Yeah, you got.
We've heard from you and heard from other members, expressing the gratitude and moved by the speech by Mr. Zelensky yesterday. He asked, however, for some very specific things. No-fly zones. He came close to almost admonishing members to say, you don't help us, we're on the precipice of history here. We hear a lot of these heartfelt messages from members saying we want to help Ukraine, but when it comes to the specific things he's asking for, Congress is not willing to do so. Can you square that?
Yes, and I'm so pleased. A substantive question from Chad. Oh, my God. Usually it's about this, that, or the other thing. In any event, it's right on target, Chad. I appreciate your question. Yes, it was a very moving speech. Yes, the President Zelensky once again asked for open skies. I've had that conversation with him individually as recently at the end of last week when he asked for the the presentation that we all witnessed yesterday. We're not doing open skies. And he did say, as did the speaker on this will be my third interaction with the Ukraine speaker, they know that's not, we understand your position on that. These are the things we need otherwise. It seems very clear that, let me back up for a second and just say, President Biden has done a masterful job in managing this situation in a way that is collaborative, not condescending or dictating, but collaborative. The unity of the G7, not only the G7, but the NATO alliance has been remarkable to behold. They are all unified with how we go forward. And how they are unified on how we go forward is that we are not going into Ukraine. It is not an Article 5 situation. We are, however, prepared to supply Ukraine with very sophisticated equipment, some of which was alluded to yesterday, and some of which the President already announced. Was it 11:30 yesterday? A couple hours after President Zelensky's presentation. The leadership of some of the committees of jurisdiction, Intelligence, Armed Services, Foreign Affairs, and appropriate subcommittees, and the leadership had a briefing later in the day on what some of the possibilities are, the upside, and the challenges that other requests make.
Is it appropriate then to ask for those things?
Of course.
Even if your side is so, even if the Congress is in a position that they're not going to give him what he's asking for?
Of course it's appropriate. The fact is what he wants is a result. It wants a result that says we have to, if you are not going to give us air cover with your own personnel, we need air cover or we need equipment to effect air cover so that we can take out whatever the Russians are putting forth. So I think I thought he was completely appropriate in saying this is the impact we need. If it's not going to be affected by what I'm asking for, then this is another way we can get that done. And that's what people are looking into. What you saw yesterday was history. Later at the lunch, just maybe you might want to watch, I'm going to be reading a poem written by Bono about Ukraine, which you might find interesting.
Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Speaker,
Mhm.
two quick
I'll
questions
come
on
back to you.
COVID. First, on the COVID funding. Yesterday, Chair Jeffries suggested that you have time until September to act on a relief package. Is that your view? Are you going to take your time with this, or do you want to do something sooner rather than later? And then just with respect to the dinner last night, can you say roughly how long you were sitting next to the T-Sitch, and do you have any concerns about your health at this point?
No, I don't, and I get tested almost every day anyway because, so she immodestly, many times I see the president, and you have to be tested to do that, and really for the safety of my colleagues with whom I come in contact. The Taoiseach had on a mask when he sat down, but then when he started to eat, he took off the mask, and then was right during the appetizer. They called him aside. We didn't know why. But then sometime later, when it was my turn to speak, they told me how we would proceed, that he would not be speaking. So I wasn't measuring it minutes, but part of it was masked, some of it while I was eating, but it was during the appetizer that they took him away. I think we need all the money we can get to have the resources that we need to fight COVID. The last thing we need is another variant. The resources that we would have had in the bill, I think, need to be enhanced now because we're another week later and we still don't have it. Because you know the history. In the beginning, we had these therapies which were the vaccines which were in sub-zero ice temperature, ice protection with a short shelf life. And that was a fragile therapy, but it worked. And now we have pills that come in a box that can last a long time. You can take at the onset if you feel a symptom, and it can prevent it from going forward. What's important about that and why we need that money is because you want to stop transmission. Transmission creates variants. Variants are different, and they present, if they are different, present different challenges. So this is nothing to mess with. I think we need even more money than the compromise was. The Republicans did not want to spend money on COVID, and they don't like the state funding. So we took some of the state funding, only half for the money. I was very disappointed, I have to be very honest with you, because we need the money to buy the pills. The pills exist, the science is there, but there's a market out there as well beyond the U.S. And we have a responsibility to other countries. So I think we have to get on with it. I respect what the distinguished chair said about, well, we have time. Well, we have a little. But we need more time we have, the more money we need. You know,
Madam
Ms. Jacob.
I just want to dig into that a little bit more on the COVID relief.
This will be your
package.
third time.
My third time, what, ask about COVID relief?
Yeah.
Well, it's substantive. You like substantive questions, so I just want to
Yeah,
make sure
well, while people are dying in the Ukraine and all of that, you know.
people are dying
Anyway,
from
go ahead.
COVID too. Do you plan to offset it? How do you?
Yeah, we have to offset it. Mhm.
You do have to offset
We
it.
have to offset it, and that's what we'll have to go to, and I would hope that the sensitivities of those to any offset would be, the equity would be weighed as to what we need to do to save lives and livelihood and prevent the creation of a new variant. Yeah, it would be
You
offset.
said you're disappointed. I mean,
Yeah,
what
that
is
is,
your
we don't have
message?
it right now. That we don't have it right now. We have everything else right now, and we don't have it right now.
What is your message to those colleagues who nitpick kind of over that?
I've communicated my message to them.
Madam
Yes,
Speaker.
ma'am.
You mentioned that you have hoped for more money in this COVID aid.
Yes.
The president originally requested 22.5
Yeah.
billion. Have there been conversations with you and President Biden about the disappointment last week?
No, we've been, but frankly, our conversations have been about Ukraine since then. We're happy that he signed the bill. There's so much else in it that meets the needs of America's working families. But I speak regularly with the president about one subject or another. So we know we have to do more. Now, what I've said to the administration is we can't ask for more. You must ask for more because you need more, and you can't expect this to turn around like that because the legislative process takes time. We want it to be bipartisan. We need it to be paid for, and so let's just go for a bigger chunk. I think they should be double what they asked for, and because even with when they were asking for like 20 some, it was only going to get us to June. It was only going to get us to June, so we need more. And it shouldn't even be a big conversation. We need it. The science is there. The need is there. All we need is the money. And the money will be a great investment because it will keep us safe. It will help our economy turn back, our kids to be safely in school, our people safely at work, again, the therapies that are needed. It's, you know, just think of this. The Taoiseach of Ireland, the Prime Minister of Ireland, visiting the United States for St. Patrick's Day. This is very important to the people of Ireland and the people of the United States. Meeting with the President in a bilateral way. Meeting with friends in Congress. Accompanied by people from, not accompanied by, but in that lunch with people and the dinner last night, people from Northern Ireland, everyone who should be in conversation on all of this. With all the protections of the Taoiseach of Ireland, he gets a positive diagnosis.
Madam
Barack
Speaker.
Obama, the former president of the United States, has a positive indication. What chance does a poor person with a big family living in a small apartment with not, may not be safe, or with people who may or may not have a pre-existing condition or a circumstance which makes them more susceptible? This is not, everything is great. If I ask this room, how many of you think we should just go on with it? Forget about it. No mask, no this, no that. Let's just get on with it. There'd be some spirit of let's get to normal, right? But there also be people here who'll say, I have a child under 5 who's not vaccinated. I have a senior over whatever who has a pre-existing condition. I have a problem going to work under those circumstances. So we have to deal with the reality as it is, mixed. We want to move on, but we don't want to move on and leave people behind. So we need the money. So when the other side says we don't want to do COVID, well, you know what? Unless it's paid for, let's pay for it. We'll find some money to pay for it. I have one more question because we have the president coming.
Madam Speaker?
Yeah.
Madam Speaker?
Yeah,
I have a
right
question
here.
about,
With everything happening in Ukraine, it being an election year, members now open to President Biden using more executive orders, where exactly does the domestic Democratic agenda stand right now? Can anything get done before November?
Plenty has been done. We passed the ARP, the American Recovery Rescue Plan, 1 year ago, and it has produced remarkable results. Remarkable results. Millions of shots in the arms, money in pockets, children out of poverty, into schools, people in the workplace. The bill is remarkable. Child tax credit and the rest. Without one Republican vote. Without one Republican vote in the House or the Senate, unfortunately. We passed a bipartisan, barely bipartisan, but nonetheless proudly bipartisan infrastructure bill to create jobs, and we unleashed some of that money yesterday, a couple of days ago, when the president signed the bill. So in terms of job creation, nearly 7 million jobs, unemployment cut in half, people off of poverty, we've done a great job. But more needs to be done, as I said before. Until the kitchen table concerns of America's working families are more safely under wraps, we have much more to do. And we have to take great pride in what we've done, as the president did in the State of the Union. He showed progress, but he gave hope, because he recognized with his empathetic heart, with his empathy, that people still need concerns. So we have a lot to brag about, but we are not finished yet, and we will continue to do that work. I'm very proud of the work of our members. They are remarkable. I get a lot of compliments for the work of the House Democrats. I accept all of them on behalf of the members, because they're the ones who have done the work and had the courage to take the votes, even when there wasn't one vote on the other side. We'll continue to talk about this, I'm sure. We still want to get some things done that in our other agenda, the Build Back Better legislation. I don't know what that will be, but what it will be paid for. It will be non-inflationary. It will help reduce the national debt while it meets the needs of America's working families. Lowers cost for health care, lowers costs for child care, lowers costs for home health care. At the same time, enables children to go to school, universal pre-K, and again, goes a long way to save the planet for the children. We won't get everything in the bill just yet, maybe, but whatever we get will be important, and it will be paid for. And I couldn't be prouder than the work. And again, I'll come back to praising our president. And I was in Munich, I think I told some of you, he was so acclaimed by all of the heads of state that were there, and defense ministers, foreign ministers, and all the rest, for how he was a unifying force. You heard me say, John F. Kennedy, Don't ask not what your country can do for you. You all know that. The very next sentence I said to the president was about him. To citizens, people of the countries of the world, ask not what America can do for you. What we can do working together for the freedom of mankind. It's exactly what Joe Biden did, working together. Not condescendingly, but very respectfully. So I couldn't be prouder of him, and I look forward shortly to welcome him to the Capitol, where he will once again take pride in his